Tyler from Aspire Sports, and I'm going to give you some mid-round guys that I think you should target in the 20 to 21 fantasy football draft. Now, I know it's a little early to be doing this, but these guys I'm predicting to go in rounds like 4 through 8, somewhere in that range, that I think will be pretty good value going there. So, it's going to be way too early. Things can change. They can move up the draft boards. But with that being said, let's go ahead and just get into it. So, first one here is going to be Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson, I think, is going to probably go in like rounds 4 or 5, somewhere in that range. And I think going there, he's going to be very good value. Now, if you've watched this show before, you know I'm a Steelers fan. So, a little biased, but I'm going to give you some stats, okay? In the 12 games that he played this year in full, he left some others at like halftime, first quarter due to injury. So in the 12 full games that he played in this year, he's averaging 11 targets per game, which leads the NFL more than Davante Adams, 7 catches and 69 yards. So in those games, he's averaging 13.9 fantasy points per game, which would be 11th amongst wide receivers. So in the range that I'm predicting him to go, probably like 4th round, 5th round, somewhere around there, he's going to go outside the top 12. Do I think it's repeatable? Definitely. He leads the NFL this year in 14 drops. Well, probably more now. This was just during these weeks. So 14 drops in those games. So let's say we give him 0.5 more points. So he's averaging right around like 14.3, 14.4, somewhere around that range. That's going to boost him up to wide receiver number 7. So I do think it's very doable that he can repeat this again. He's the best wide receiver on this team and highly targeted. Yes, I do think he's good value in this range. The next one here is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, the industry is going to probably move him into like the 3rd round. I think we'll see what happens, but right now I think like the 4th round is where he's going to go, and I do think that's pretty good value. Now, I know he was a bust last year. He was also being drafted in the 1st round, sometimes at like pick number 6, right? So this year, not those high expectations. 3rd round, I think that's pretty solid for him, and I definitely think he can return that. Plays on the best offense, right, in the league. Plays with Patrick Mahomes. Le'Veon should not be there. We'll see if probably Damian Williams comes back and he's a little bit more involved, but I think that's okay with Clyde. I think it kind of saves himself a little bit. He'll be a little bit more efficient in his 2nd year with a full off season. I think that he'll be very good value in round 4 of your drafts. Now, if he starts to creep up at like the turn of round 2, like round 3, then no, I don't think so. We'll see what happens. I think the industry is going to kind of come around towards draft time, and they're going to move him into the 3rd round, but we'll see. I think in the 4th round, he is good value in the 4th round. And the next one here is going to be Ronald Jones. Now, I love Ronald Jones. I love Ronald Jones. Even when they got Leonard Fournette, I wasn't worried about it because I know Ronald Jones is a better running back than Leonard Fournette. I'm sorry. I don't think Leonard Fournette's that good. So, Ronald Jones, in the games that Leonard Fournette didn't play in, and then also when Bruce Arians finally committed and said Ronald Jones is the guy, Ronald Jones on a per game basis was averaging 16.5 points in those games. If that was spread across the full season, that would be RB number 7. RB number 7 ahead of James Robinson, okay? So, yes, I do think that there's a lot of potential here with Ronald Jones. I think he's probably going to go in like the 4th or 5th round in drafts. And I think in those rounds, he is very good value as long as they don't bring somebody else in. Now, say they return Leonard Fournette, they bring him back, then no. But if they don't bring anybody else in, then yes. Ronald Jones in that range, I do think is very solid value, and I would be comfortable with having him as my RB2. And the next one here is going to be Courtland Sutton. Now, we haven't heard from Courtland Sutton in a while, right? Tore his ACL. I think he should be good to go at camp. Now, if he's having some swelling or some issues, then obviously disregard this. But if not, I do think he's probably going to go like, I'd say 7th, 8th round, maybe even later. Depends on the news. I think a lot of people are going to be high on Jerry Jeudy coming into this year. This offense has some potential to be pretty good. It all depends on Drew Lock. Is Drew Lock going to take a next step, or is he going to continue to be below average, honestly? I think he can provide fantasy value for the skills players, especially Courtland Sutton. He has a lot of value in my eyes. I think he could finish as a top 25 guy, and I think he's going to go outside of the top 30. So the next one here is going to be 2 guys, and it's going to be whoever goes the latest out of both of these around draft time. So if it's Lamar going at 5, because I'm assuming you're going to have the top 5 quarterbacks are going to be Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Kyler, and then these two. It should be. We'll see what happens. If one of these guys falls outside of the top 5, then yes, I like them. I don't really like taking quarterbacks early, honestly, and don't draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds. Unless you're in like a 2 QB league, then yeah. But if you're in a 1 quarterback standard leagues, don't draft a quarterback, okay? Wait for one of these guys, or get Ryan Tannehill later in the draft. Ryan Tannehill is incredibly consistent. He's so good. Like, get him later in the draft. There's going to be another Justin Herbert, okay? There's going to be guys available. But if one of these guys goes, whoever's going later out of these two, especially if it's like DeShaun, after Bill O'Brien was fired and before Will Fuller got suspended, he was averaging the most fantasy points at the quarterback position. He's my favorite target here. It depends if he goes 5th, then yes, but I don't really like to take quarterbacks early, so we'll see what happens. But I felt like I had to put a quarterback in here, so it's whoever goes later out of these two would be my favorite option. The next one here is going to be Darren Waller. Now I think he's probably going to start in like the 4th round and maybe creep his way into the 3rd round, maybe in the 5th, and like creep his way up, but we'll see what happens leading up to the draft. If he goes in like the 4th round, like that's the money round for me. I think he's a great value. This year he scored more fantasy points than Travis Kelce and George Kittle did last year. Those two guys were drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round of the drafts this year. He's so much better than all your other fantasy tight ends. Like, it's the big 3. Maybe somebody else will come up. We'll see, but I would love Darren Waller in like the 4th round. I feel like he's a very good value in the 4th round. And the next one here is going to be Brandon Aiyuk. And I think Brandon Aiyuk, in my opinion, is going to go like round 6, maybe 5. He's going to go outside the top 20, right around probably like the top 25, if not a little bit later, right in that range. Because you're going to have Debo, Kittle. I think those guys are going to get a lot of praise in the offseason. The industry is going to be big on those guys. This is the guy that I want. This is somebody who averaged the 17th most fantasy points at the wide receiver position this year. So he's going to be drafted around wide receiver 25. He definitely has top 20 potential. In an offense that's going to have all of their weapons back, is going to be healthy. He's an excellent route runner, and in my opinion, just the sky's the limit with him. And the last one here is going to be Myles Gaskin. Now, largely depends on what they do this offseason with the running back position. If they don't bring in anybody through the draft or free agency, then yes, I do like him where I think he's going to go. But if they do bring in somebody, then I think he'll probably go later, and I don't really have that much interest in him. But if they don't, I think he's going to go in like round 5, RB20 in that range, maybe outside the top 20. And this year, he was averaging the 12th most fantasy points at the running back position. So somebody that might be going right around RB20 definitely has top 12 potential. Myles Gaskin would be the last guy. So if you do like this content, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching the video. And if you have any questions, maybe I left somebody out, leave in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.